Welcome everyone to another episode of Regular Guy Barbecue, brought to you by CSC Entertainment. Alright, so we're not cooking nothing today. Sorry to disappoint you. Instead today we're going to be doing a little bit of a how-to if you want to build your own smoker, okay? So we're going to be talking about the UDS, the ugly drum smoker, as we call it, the ugly ducking smoker. So be it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through, we've already built this one, obviously, it's already done. But we're going to go through this thing, a little bit of a how-to, not so much showing you how to, but just talking about some of the things you can do. And the reason that I'm not going to show you exactly how we built it is there is no exactly how to build one of these. You just take what you got laying around. If you got some parts down at the hardware store you got to get, that's all it takes. So we're going to start at the top, work our way down. Now, first thing is the barrel. Now you got to get a barrel that's got a removable lid, like, yeah, the removable lid. Removable lid like this one has. You don't want to get one that you got to cut the lid out and all that kind of jazz. Get one that's got a resealable lid like this one. Alright? Now the larger hole that comes in these barrels, larger bung as they call it, takes this pipe real good. Now I don't remember what size pipe I used, but it threaded right in. So you can make your stack out of that, an old pipe flange, piece some things together, and you got yourself a stack that you can control your temperature with. Any old handle will work. Any old handle that you got laying around to work. We happen to have this one, so that's what we use. A couple of holes, drill them in, you're done. Now we did something a little different with this one. We took the small bung out and modified a thermometer to fit right in the hole. That way we can kind of control or see what our temperatures are doing. Now it's not going to be an exact science to the temperatures, but it gives you an idea of what's going on. Alright, let's look at the outside. Now it's recommended by those that know the science behind these, and I don't even know the science fiction behind these, so I just kind of did whatever. We've got 3 infeeds, air infeeds if you will. Now these also are to help you control the temperature and how much airflow you're getting into your smoker. And again, if you don't want to buy valves to make it work, you can just take a little flange, make a little piece like this. We happen to have some pipe that was laying around that somebody had already done some work to, so we found those and put them on there. Put a U-bolt on there to help hold it in place. Drill a couple holes and you're good to go. Now on the bottom down there, you're going to use a hole saw to go through there so you can make your holes bigger. If you don't have hole saws, they're a few bucks down at the store, not a big problem. This one we happen to have this size valve laying around, so we use this size pipe, and again, real easy to control how much air is going in and out. And we've got a third one over here that we had this size pipe, which is a little bit bigger, and you use what you can find. If you got stuff laying around, go to a garage sale, find somebody that's got a bunch of stuff laying around, and say, hey, I'll give you $5 for that pile of stuff you got over there. That's all it needs. It don't got to be anything fancy. Now if you come around the back here, these are options, but these are options that we did because we had this stuff laying around. We put a couple old garden cart wheels on here so we can roll it around a little bit. Bolt them into the bottom, weld them on the bottom if you happen to be fortunate enough to have a welder. Nothing too difficult about it. And then on the front side of the bottom, you can see we've got a couple of just little pieces of angle iron that we welded onto the bottom of the barrel just to give it feet to stand on and make it sit evenly. Alright, now let's go to the inside. Take our lid off there and get that out of the way. There we are. Pretty cut and dry. 4 bolts that go through that hold up a standard kettle grill grate. That's all it is. You know, it just literally just sits on top of those bolts. Time to do the fire, you take it out. There you go. All done. Now down inside you can see we found this old piece of junk laying around. Put a grate on the bottom. This is where we put all of our charcoal and all of our wood and all those things. Just you know, it ain't pretty. It's wired into that. Great to hold the wood in. An old thing we found, probably out of an old wash bin or something. It was laying in a scrap pile. So we made our burning bucket out of it. And last but not least, on the bottom down there you can see our ash can, or our ash catcher, which is way too small, but it's what we had. It's just an old pizza pan laying around. Now if you got something nicer you can put down there, just throw something on the bottom. You can grab the ashes out of the bottom and dump them out as needed. Is it a pain? Kind of. But it's, for what we've got invested in this thing, it's really cool and it's really worth it. Now, one other thing I want to tell you about. depending on what's in your barrel, or what was in your barrel when you get it, you're going to want to wash these things out real thoroughly, because you don't want to have any toxic ickies in there. So you wash them out real thoroughly before you get started. Dry them out real thoroughly. I used an oil on the inside. I used my avocado oil like you've seen me use before, and then had a fire burn inside for several hours to sort of season the inside. Seals it up from letting it rust. Make sure we don't have any nasty stuff in there that make toxic fumes in your food. And that's all taken care of.
Fire's a very good sanitizer.
Fire's a great sanitizer, huh? And it makes a good salad dressing? No? Okay. All right, so the other thing we're going to do today is we're going to add a level or add a rack to this smoker. The reason being is I've got a big cook coming up real soon, and I'm just not going to have enough room to smoke everything that I've got planned. So we're going to put another level in there, and what that's going to do is it's going to give us multiple layers to cook things on. Also, if you do things like a brisket and you want to add a water pan like we've talked about in some of our other videos, it gives you a place to put the water pan down below the meat, so all that steam will come up and keep your meat juicy. What I've got is I've got this one come off of King Kong. This is a 22-inch kettle grill rack. Okay, this one happens to be the one that I took off of King Kong. It's got our little trap doors we've talked about. You don't have to get one of the trap doors if you don't want. They're a little more expensive. But the reason I'm using this one is our stores, because it's out of season, no longer have the standard ones like we have over there that we put in originally. So what I did is I bought a new one of these, put it on King Kong. We're going to take the used one here, and we're going to build it into this smoker. So I'm going to get the tools set up, show you what we plan on doing, and get her done. Alright, so what we've done is we went through our parts bin in the garage, and we've got parts all over. And we're going to use some 3/8 bolts. Now these are fully threaded, and the reason I'm doing that is a lot of times your bolts only have threads that come up about this far. Well, you put that through the barrel, try to put a nut on it, you're never going to get it to lock. So we're using fully threaded bolts. These are 3/8. And we're going to use a serrated nut, a locking nut. Don't use nylox, because obviously if it gets hot, the nylon's going to melt, and then your nylock isn't going to work. Unfortunately, we only had 3 of these, and the hardware store didn't have any more. So we're going to use some standard bolts and double nut it to make those things stay in. All right? So we've decided, since our upper rack is going to sit at about a 7-inch level, give or take, we've decided to go down about another 6 inches. So we're going to be at about 13 inches.
There.
Yeah, right about there. We've got our X's marked out around it, evenly around the smoker. So we're going to take, first of all, and you guys that build stuff, you know how this works. I don't need to explain a lot of this to you. So we're going to take a small bit, drill some pilot holes to make sure we get our holes started, and then we're going to go up to a larger bolt. God. We're going to go up to a larger bit to put the holes in big enough to let us put our bolts through. All right. So, nothing real tough about this, or real rocket science about this.
Careful for metal shading.
There's a hole. That's how you mean. You guys know how to do that stuff, right? And the tool man will be proud, right? Yeah. I don't have the ability to bend it very well, so it's a little tough for me to get down and drill these holes. But we make it work.
Watch this one from the inside.
Huh?
Watch this one from the inside.
Okay. There it is. I couldn't see my X from it. That's one problem about using a black marker on a black barrel is can't see. Now guys, I do recommend, if you do build a barrel smoker like this, I highly recommend painting them, because obviously they're going to rust if you don't, because they're made of metal. Don't use Krylon, don't use a simple spray paint. We've used a high temperature paint that's made for grills. Supposedly it'll take temperatures of up to 800 degrees. I do believe they make a few other colors now. I know they used to make one that was like a blaze orange you can put on your engine block back in the day.
That'd be fun.
It'd be interesting. We chose black because
Make a pumpkin one. It's Halloween time around this video.
you could make one of these. It's an ugly jack-o'-lantern smoker, right? Yeah, that'd be cool as heck. All right, so we got our pilot holes. Switch to the bigger bit. Again, pretty cut and dry.
For people who are inexperienced with building stuff like I am,
You-
why do you use the bigger one?
That's a very good.
Second.
That's a very good point. Let me drill this hole and I'll explain that. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. All right. So for those of you that maybe aren't real familiar with how drilling holes, especially through metal, works, inexperienced builders still want to try to tackle a project like this, the reason we do a pilot hole is a couple of things. Number one, we get a hole started in the center of where we want to go. You take a big bit like this, the opportunity for it to walk, especially on a curved surface, and when I mean walk, where you try to drill and it goes sideways across your surface, is more apt to happening with a larger bit like this than it is with a smaller bit. If you use a center punch, obviously that's going to help, but we don't have one of those available right now, so we just did it with the pilot hole. Make sense? Yeah, it also, these bits tend to grab pretty hard when you're going through fresh metal. So again, the pilot hole helps you out with just a little more control of your drill. Yeah? Does that help you out understand?
Yeah.
Good. See, I'm going to have this girl building these things in no time.
Well, I kind of know why.
Yeah.
But for people who don't know.
There we are, and one to go. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a good point.
So not everyone's gonna know that stuff.
Not everyone will know that.
And
And
the video.
no, I get confused with the alphabet, so imagine how I'd feel if I didn't know how to do this. I spent decades in the industry doing things like this, whether we're working on cars, working on machinery, stuff like that. Did a lot of different things throughout the years. So, I mean, I kind of do this stuff in my sleep. If you're not a welder, you don't have access to a welder, you can buy things that will bolt on and just drill your holes in there. None of it's got to be perfect. That's why it's called an ugly drum smoker, because we don't care if it looks a little ugly if things don't quite match.
As long as it cooks good.
If it cooks food and it functions, nothing else matters. Okay, so now what we're going to do, real simple, we're just going to add our bolts. Not too hard to do. Now, come on, you've got it. Now we're going to run two different nuts on here. And again, for those of you that maybe not have the experience of doing things like this, why are we going to add a second nut? It's a very good question.
That's crazy.
Because the more nuts in your group, the better, right? No, well, we're all nuts on our own rights. So, no, the reason we're going to add a second nut to this is, imagine if you can, you're heating this thing up, you're cooling it down, you're heating it up, you're cooling it down, you're moving it around, banging it around. What can happen?
The metal can contract.
Right, and the nuts can come loose, right? So, what we do is we put this on here, we call this a jam nut. And what this will do, you know how things better when two nuts are together, yeah? What this will do is that'll keep that other nut from coming loose. Our bolts will never move, right? All right, so we'll get the rest of these installed, show you what it looks like when it's done, and then we'll add our grate. So we're putting our last bolt in, and as I mentioned earlier, I didn't have the fourth flanged bolt or flanged nut put on, and those can act like locking nuts, and if you feel comfortable just using that, that's fine. Again, I didn't have four, I only had three, and the hardware store was out conveniently. So the doubling up of the nuts can also substitute for a locking nut. So that'll give you a little bonus. Okay, there we are, that one's in there. Now, if I would have been a smart man, which I'm about 50-50 on being smart, I would have taken my drill bit and kind of skated it around inside these holes a little bit from side to side, kind of worked it a little bit. And the reason why is there's a little bit of a burr that's inside of each of these holes. There's a little bit of the excess metal that was left behind from the drilling process. I didn't do that. Why? Mostly because I forgot. But that's all right. We got them in there. Everything's good. So if you look closely at these, you may be able to see it on camera. You may not be able to. Some of them are a little bit tipped up. Some of them are a little bit maybe tipped down, or whatever. So you can really easily grab a hold of that thing and just give it a little nudge with your hand. Give it a little tap with a hammer if you're not strong enough to do it with your hand. Not a big problem. Let's see how we did, shall we? Now we're going to take, this is our grate that we had in there before, and we're going to take and put that one on the bottom because it doesn't have the trap doors, it doesn't have the handles. So if we're going to be cooking on 2 levels, we want to have the one that's got the handles on the top.
Cooler to grab.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad. This one's a little low, so we're going to tweak it a little bit. And that one's a little high, so we'll tweak it a little bit.
Kind of good you offsetted them too. It'd be easier to put it in.
That's right. You can get around them a little bit easier, can't you? Mm-hmm. That's right. So there we have that one. Now let's grab our other one. And we set that one in there. Now you can see how we've got 2 different levels of cooking. So now, theoretically, if we were going to do briskets, for example, or maybe shoulders, if I was going to do an 8-pound shoulder, and I got a big party coming up, like when we did for your graduation party, we're going to cook for like 60, 70 people. And think, oh my God, how am I going to cook that much food? I can put 4 shoulders on each level, so I literally could cook, if I do my math right, 64 pounds of shoulder in this little $50 project that I made.
How many servings would that be?
Everyone. Seriously, you could probably feed 30, 40, 50 people off of 8 shoulders. Yeah, if not more. And probably have leftovers till the cows come home.
It's like if you need to do a catering event. For
well, yeah,
people.
Theoretically you could. Yeah, absolutely. But you can kind of see, again, we've got that all set up and ready to go to have a second level of cooking. Or if we're just going to do, like, let's say we're going to do two 8, 10-pound briskets, or maybe 3 shoulders.
Like you did not long ago,
right,
putting
like
the
I did not long
tray
ago.
down.
Absolutely, yeah. You could put a water pan down below, catch all your drippings, add that moisture. Water pan, yeah.
Not drip.
Either way, whatever you want to call it. So, hopefully this will give you a little bit of insight into how one of these cheap smokers can be built, how you can do this yourself at home. You don't need to run out and spend hundreds of dollars on parts. You don't need to go out and buy a $500 pellet smoker, none of that stuff. Literally, I have $50 invested in this thing. Well, plus paint, but I had the paints laying around, so it worked out great. That's it. If you have any questions about anything, you can feel free to add a comment down below.
Yeah, nobody's commented on videos yet.
I know, you guys don't comment on things, but listen, in all seriousness, my goal to this channel, number 1 is to help you guys out, to help you learn some things, maybe a little insight to something you might not be familiar with how to do. We just want to be here to help. But the other thing we want to do is I'm hoping, not too distant future, we can get 1,000 subscribers. My goal to getting 1,000 subscribers, my nose is running, it's cold out here. I want to get 1,000 subscribers so we can do live Q&A videos. Okay? We'll come on once a week, do a live video. You can put in the comments if you've got questions. We can try to answer them for you. In fact, I've even come up with a name for that. I'm going to sit down, excuse me. We're going to call it Under the Learning Tree. That's going to be our live video every week. And what that's going to be designed to do is not only for me to answer any questions that you have, but if somebody out there that has more experience at this than I do, they can comment on there and spread their knowledge to me and to you. So we're just going to share the knowledge, share the love of barbecuing, most of all, share the fun. Guys, if you haven't done so yet, like the video if you do like it, share the video if you like it, comment down below if you have anything you want to add, and of course hit that subscribe button because we want to have you be part of the Regular Guy Barbecue family. Don't forget to mash the notification button a whole bunch of times so it's on and you know when we add new videos to our channel. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time for another fantastic barbecue video here at Regular Guy Barbecue.